I'm delighted to say that joining me for all the chat today is Philip Ingram, MBE, former senior military intelligence officer. Morning to you.
Good morning.
Very nice to see you. Let's start making sure we actually know exactly what was said, by whom, before we actually discuss it. I know it's a mad idea, isn't it? Yeah, exactly.
When have we ever started doing that?
You know me and my facts. Before I ask the question of you, so Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the boss of Manchester United, Mr. Self-Made Man, one of our, well, I think he's our richest person, isn't he? Runs a chemicals company, Ineos, although of course he's now a tax exile in Monaco. But you know, a well-known figure, doesn't do many interviews. Did an interview with Ed Conway on Sky News about various different things, and then he said this:
You can't have an economy with 9 million people on benefits and huge levels of immigrants coming in. I mean, the UK is being colonised. It's costing too much money. It will cause... It'll cause... Well, yeah. The UK is being colonised by immigrants, really, isn't it? I mean, the population of the UK was 58 million in 2020. Now it's 70 million. That's 12 million people.
Now, there's a few things he did get wrong there. Just simple factual errors, and we'll come to that. But that was greeted by, the usual outcry from the usual suspects, including one Sir Keir Starmer, who apparently hasn't got enough to do. He's just too busy hiring people who are best mates with paedophiles and annoying all of his female MPs and stuff, and being pretty useless at running the country. But he's got plenty of time to police what other people say in their publicly expressed personal opinions. He says those comments are offensive and wrong, that this country is a proud, tolerant and diverse country, and he's called on Jim Ratcliffe to apologise. I just want to know your reaction to all of that. Do you agree with what Sir Jim said? Did you not like the language but you agree with the sentiment, or you've got no problem with the language anyway? Do you think the Prime Minister shouldn't be, or should be, giving his tuppence worth on what other people say? No offence, Keir Starmer, but I don't think you can lick the food, the burnt dirt off the bottom of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's shoes from what he's achieved in his life. Who are you to be telling him what he can and can't say? Do you agree with the Prime Minister? Do you agree with Sir Jim Ratcliffe? Somewhere in between. I want to know what you think. Give us a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at TalkTV. Calls, of course, are charged at the national rate altogether now. Text costs £1, standard network rate message. Honestly, I say this in my sleep. Philip Ingram, did you agree with Sir Jim Ratcliffe? First of all, was he right to say what he said, and how he said it?
He was right and he was wrong.
Come on, we're not having fence sitters here.
No, I'm fence sitting, but I'm now going to come off the fence on each side and create problems for all sides. You know, this is seen by the Prime Minister, and his reaction is purely because it's deflection from what's going on there. Yeah. And we're going to see the standard cut and paste of tweets coming out of Labour Central headquarters, and all the ministers are going to come out and say this is disgusting, blah blah blah, because it's deflecting.
Although Ratcliffe was actually quite nice about the PM and about Nigel Farage. Well, he said he's a nice man.
Exactly, and it didn't help he got some of his facts wrong. But your British culture, I would argue, is a colonised culture. You like your G&Ts. The quinine comes from our time in Africa and our time in India. You like your Ruby Murrays. You like your chow mein and your chop suey, which aren't Chinese dishes. That's because we had an empire.
We eat some foreign food.
No, we had an empire, and therefore a lot of those cultures came into this country. 1066 were invaded by the Normans.
You can get a McDonald's in Japan as well.
Well, exactly. Anglo-Saxons. The Saxons in the 5th century were Germans that came in. Then we had the Roman culture that gave us roads, drains and baths, which we all like. But you know, we are, as a country, have developed our own identity over the years, and that identity is being overtaken by the illegal immigrants that are coming into this country and being absorbed, and that is changing the culture, and that's what I think Jim Ratcliffe was talking about.
No, I think he was very specifically talking about legal migration, actually. Let's be very clear. When he said the population of the UK was 58 million in 2020, now it's 70 million this year, that's 12 million people. That was factually wrong. He said it was actually 58 million in 2000, not 2020. He was out by 20 years. So basically, you know, early on in the Blair years, before we had the mass immigration, and it's risen by 3 million since 2020. What I love about this is people go, oh, it's only risen by 3 million since 2020, not by 12 million. We are into the same territory as we are with the campaign for Brexit and the Vote Leave campaign with that £250 million sent to the EU every day on the side of a bus. And the Remainers go, no, we don't send that much. It's only 185 or whatever after the rebate. And they thought, oh, this is a horrible lie. Of course, it meant that people were constantly talking about how much money we sent to the EU. And British people were going, how much? 180 million and 250 million makes no difference to us. It's a heck of a lot of money, and we're sending it there rather than getting it here. When you say it's only 3 million people since 2020, okay, but 12 million people in total increase of the population, most of which has been as a result of migration, whether it's people arriving here or them having children. But again, nevertheless, as a result of immigration, people go, how many? Even 3 million since 2000. That is 1,643 more people arriving in this country every day. And that's the net figure. Yeah. That's the net figure. OK, this is the thing. My thing is, like, he also talked about 9 million working age benefit, 9 million people on benefits. It's only 9 million on working age. We've got loads more other people who are living, OK, people who paid their pensions, and younger people as well. But we have a massive issue. We have a massive issue in terms of the number of migrants who are on benefits. These are undoubtedly issues, and they're only becoming issues in the public and in our politics because certain people have been raising them. I'm saying, Nigel Farage, other prominent people have been talking about them. Otherwise, we've been told for years, net immigration on grand scale is a good thing. It is bringing us economic prosperity. Well, we just got the latest figures. We're flatlining. 1.3% for the entire year last year, and 0.1% for quarter 4 of 2025. We've had virtually stagnant growth for 20 years while we've had a mass explosion in immigration. How's that working out for us? They're not a net benefit. When he talks about the word colonised, this I think is the big issue. Being colonised, colonisation is a group of people going to somewhere else, to another area, and basically working to sort of take control over the people,
culture over the culture of that place.
But that is what has happened. Now, whether people have planned to do it or not, when you bring in millions of people from other cultures, which a lot of them are, I mean, look, the largest number of people who've arrived in this country are actually been Indians, you've got Chinese, you've got Pakistani, you've got Nigerians. Indians actually by a far long way.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I think, a lot of people feeling in terms of the changes in culture, I think people are actually more concerned about those from Muslim countries. Reason why? There's been a rather big separation in terms of groups of society. Now, the thing is, we have got, even like the most lefty people, the Prime Minister himself talked about an island of strangers earlier last year, apologised for it afterwards. We do have whole swathes of our cities where our whole neighbourhoods are just one ethnic, religious, national heritage group. They don't mix with other people, they don't speak the English language, they don't speak to anyone outside their group, they go to the same schools, they go to the same places of worship, they socialise together, they work together. And then we've got demands for blasphemy laws. Yeah. We've got the influence of the pro-Gaza MPs.
Sharia law demands.
Infecting our foreign policy and our attitude towards Israel. I'm sorry, what he said is true.
Yeah. I live in Birmingham. I see that, and this is where you get.
Then why shouldn't he say it?
He should say it. But you get two sets of this. And here's, I'm not sitting the fence with this, but there's people that come into this country and will integrate into the culture that has been built up. That is a multicultural society, and they'll come and be British, because British culture is multicultural by de facto. But then you get people who come in and try and impose their cultures onto British culture and will not integrate and absorb. And that number is growing. And you're exactly right. You get these communities of primarily Muslims in different areas who will stick together. And then the government changes the two-child benefit rule, and that two-child benefit rule, it has been proven, is going to benefit more people from these
Pakistan and Bangladesh in particular.
These communities that are not integrating into society, that are not working, that are not net contributors to what's going on financially or culturally or anything else, and it's creating further diversity. And therefore it's something we should be worried about. Enoch Powell said it.
The biggest lie that is told about this country is that we are a nation of immigrants and that we are built on diversity. We are the exact opposite. Since 1066 and the Norman Conquest, we have had virtually no major influx of migrants until Blair from 1997, 2000 onwards, when it has exploded, despite the express will of the people expressed at every general election that we wanted those numbers to come down. Labour and the Tories afterwards, and you know, I mean, Labour, it'll come down net under this Labour government because of stuff that Rishi Sunak enacted rather late in the Tory governments. But it is carried on going up and up and up exponentially. We are not a nation of immigrants. We are incredibly homogeneous, very culturally similar group of people. You know, the biggest difference between being Scots and Irish and Welsh and, I mean, come on, we are a very... The evidence is...
Let's talk whiskey.
And we're told diversity is our strength. No, actually, there's no evidence that diversity in a nation, it promotes strength. It doesn't promote community cohesion. It doesn't promote trust. It doesn't make people happier. The happiest, most cohesive societies in the world are not diverse. Now, this is already, as these things always are, already turned into an issue of race. Already we've had, I mean, for some reason, Today programme on Radio 4, they decided to invite on the sort of the Muslim Manchester United Muslim fans group or whatever they're called. What? Why is that? Why does that group even exist? How is the God you worship remotely relevant to the team you worship? I do not get that, and that is part of the problem. But it's nothing to do with race. There is no. Jim Ratcliffe didn't mention race. He's talking about culture, and he's talking about money. He's talking about a large number of people coming to this country, changing our culture, dominating our culture, not assimilating. But I mean, I think we can read into that, but also not financially contributing. And what's the hit back? Well, he's a tax exile. He's moved to Monaco. If I could save £4 billion on my taxes, I'd move somewhere. I'd move somewhere warmer and nicer too.
Exactly. But
sod that.
You know, up until Blair, those that came into this country and integrated into the culture that they found. You know,
because they arrived in small numbers.
Because they arrived in relatively small numbers, and there was a lot of effort to you know, and people were almost forced into integration. They weren't allowed to have these separate areas purely for their culture. Since Blair came in and brought in his wider tolerance and everything else, we've started to see the separations in this country, and those separations are what are causing real problems across society, because you get divides. As soon as you get divides, then those divides, whether they be cultural, ethnic, religious or whatever, are just exacapeople.
Yeah, but exactly. The Prime Minister talked about us being a proud, tolerant, diverse country. Well, I mean, actually, an awful lot of people on his side of the debate, they're not proud of our country. They think our country's done terrible things. Tolerant means putting up with. Well, why should we put up with something we didn't vote for? Yeah. No, I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
We didn't vote for it. Not only did we not vote for it, we expressly voted against it and were told the manifesto of the winning party at every election from 2010 onwards promised to bring down immigration. And then saying, and we're a diverse country. We're not. The vast majority of people in this country are long-standing, you know, brackets, white, because we're a European people, therefore we're white. This is not controversial stuff, people. But it's just utterly bizarre. No one says that Japan should have, Japan's doing terribly because they don't have enough immigrants from Pakistan or from Nigeria, for goodness sake. No one says, oh, isn't it terrible that Nigeria doesn't have enough Indians and white people? This is only happening in sort of these sort of, oh, isn't it terrible that we're white and that we're European countries? But again, this always comes down to, whether or not people are willing to face up to the truth. That actually, having a load of people coming from America or Australia or France or Germany, those people, we're quite happy to have those people. They don't actually disrupt our culture. They assimilate, that more than likely speak the language. And yet people coming from, and again, it's largely third world, still basically peasant-like countries. Pakistan or Bangladesh, I'm sorry, and Nigeria, there's a huge amount of wealth in those countries, in a very few people, but the vast majority of people coming from those countries are not coming here to make a contribution. They are coming here and then they are ending up very soon living on benefits. They are not earning enough to be making a net contribution. We need to accept that, and anyone who's not accepting that is just not playing with the facts.
Those that come in that are wealthy from those different countries you mentioned tend to have got their wealth and their culture from British culture that was exported whenever we ran our empire.
Also, by the way, I really don't give two hoots how many Man United players are from abroad. I believe it's around 75% of them are from abroad. I'm intensely relaxed about people coming here and earning millions and millions of pounds a year.
As long as they pay taxes.
And paying tax on it. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't think they're arriving and just saying, "Can we have Sharia law, please?" And you know, forced marriages and FGM. Because we've imported all of that with our wonderfully proud, tolerant, and diverse society. I'm not proud of that. I'm not tolerant about it, and I don't think that diversity is good for us.
The bad thing about this is we're seeing our politicians trying to make a racist issue out of this.
They always make it about race.
When it's not
no
a
one
racist
mentioned
issue.
race.
It's all exactly. It's all about integration and dilution of the culture that we know.
And sheer numbers.
Yes, and the numbers that increase will dilute the culture that we've got. That culture doesn't matter whether you've got white skin, black skin, brown skin, yellow skin.
Yeah,
it matters not. It matters not where your third generation parents came from, because you've integrated into society. You're working as a common group. We've now got big numbers who will not, who refuse to integrate, who fly their own flags from where they've come from, who will insist on their own laws being applied, and who oppress their own people.
And by the way, I've got the same issue with people from Britain who go over the Costa del Sol and demand to have bacon eggs everywhere they go and refuse to learn the language. I feel the same about that. That's it. That's Spain's problem. That's up to them. They can make rules about that. This is my country. This is your country. We get to decide. We have a vote, and we get to decide what happens in our country. And that's the thing. And we've decided, and we keep telling them what we want, and they keep doing the opposite of it, which is why we are in such a mess right now. I just want to know from you, what do you think? I mean, what does Sir Jim Ratcliffe say that was wrong? Don't like the word colonised, but I mean, why are we going to get hung up on that word? He got some of his stats wrong, but ostensibly, I think what he said in terms of the message, sentiment I think was right. Meanwhile, PM absolutely loving this. You can peel to the left.
Hey, squirrel!
Every time he does it, I do go, "Where's the squirrel?" Because he's under a lot of basically he's. It's like Andrew and Manderson never met a dodgy billionaire they didn't like. It does appear that our Prime Minister never met a big, a new Labour person who was big friends with a paedophile that he didn't like. Big issues with him. Labour women apparently are now furious about the fact that this guy Matthew Doyle was appointed to peer, even though it was known, the Prime Minister's admitted that he had backed a guy who was accused of, charged with, but not actually convicted of having paedophile pictures of a child at the age of 10, for God's sake. I mean, come on. And by the way, people in these scenarios, when they plead guilty to this stuff, they always plead it down. This is the deal. There will be way more. I don't believe for a nanosecond there won't way more horrific things on this person's computer. So I'm sorry. God knows what else there were. We've now got a row over the vetting of the proposed new Cabinet Secretary, Antonia Romeo, her old boss at the Foreign Office. When it says when she was High Consul or whatever she was in New York, that apparently she was a bit of bully and basically some dodgy expenses and the like. I mean, this is just going to run and run. But of course, she's a woman. So he's got to appoint her.
But Keir turned around and said, is there anything I should be aware of? And she said no, and he's accepted that. He's such a good barrister when it comes to interrogating people and finding out everything that there is about them.
I'd love, if I'm ever accused of a crime, matter of time, right? I'd love him to be the prosecuting barrister.
Oh, it'd be fantastic.
Totally getting off that case.
He'd just believe everything that anyone says, and that's the trouble. The Mandelson affair has wounded him. Fatally, I would argue.
It is fatal.
And then yesterday, he stands up in Parliament, and I'm going to big someone up I never thought I'd ever big up. Ed Davey skewered him completely. And you could see the way that got straight to Keir Starmer. And Keir Starmer then was forced to come out with exactly the same excuse he'd used at Mandelson. I was told by him that there was nothing.
Absolutely.
When actually what the facts are proving is he knew beforehand. He's just been caught out, and he's just lied to Parliament.
He's so funny. He's really rubbish at testing whether people are telling the truth to him or not. But he's also a really bad liar himself, isn't he? And we all know he's toast. It's just a matter of time before he's gone, isn't it? Andrew, I think we all know he's toast as well, given the spate of different investigations into him.
Just prosecute him.
He's being poked by criminal prosecutors over the Epstein scandal. The update, I mean, there's been more and more stuff is coming out in America. We've got the tip of the iceberg of this this stuff. The stuff we've seen is a fraction of it, and it's redacted. More and more and more is going to come out. We've also now got front page of the Sun, this £12 billion loan from the Queen and King Charles, well, Prince Charles as he was. What, the Queen couldn't have just, the late Queen could have just sold a picture? Didn't she have I've always thought that the monarch would have a spare 12 billion in their account, but this was a loan, not a gift, to pay off Virginia Giuffre. And presumably all the legal fees as well. That would have probably hit well over £1 million. But he hasn't paid the money back. But of course, he hasn't got anything to pay the money back with.
Yeah. But, you know, that's a mum lending her son who's in trouble an amount of money. Yes, 12 million is a huge amount of money, but it was from her personal money.
My dad helped me with my rent once when I was in my mid-20s.
Yeah, but
I think it was 400 quid.
There's lots of people out there.
I paid it back a month later.
And, you know, any mother would lend their child, you know, when they're in trouble, whatever, to help get them out of trouble.
Would I lend my child, if I had a son and he was accused of having sex with a 17-year-old who'd been trafficked for him, basically given to him by a paedophile, would I bail him out? I don't know if I would.
Well, but this is
unless it was about protecting, as we talked about before on the show, the firm.
Correct.
It's not about protecting Andrew; it's protecting the firm.
And this is where, you know, every mother's got their different standards that they will set and do it, and there are a lot of factors that come in. Andrew, you know, it's been known that he's a nasty piece of work ever since I've ever heard of him, for you know, decades and decades and decades. And therefore I'm not surprised with what's coming out in the Epstein files. The King has done exactly the right thing in removing all his royal titles and everything else, and with that will come any of the perceived protections that we've got. The only member of the royal family that is protected in law from anything is the King himself. And therefore it's right and proper that the police investigate this, that, like if any other potential criminal investigation, which this is, we treat it in that way.
Should have been investigated long ago based on the allegations.
It should have been, but how many other investigations should have been carried out a long time ago? Mandelson should never have been appointed if the investigations happened a long time ago.
Exactly.
He's another deflection by the government because he's clickbait and he stops the focus going to Keir Starmer.
Absolutely. Something else that I was talking about a lot on the show yesterday, and I have to say, if you follow me on social media, quite a lot of messages last night as well, about this horrific shooting in Canada. High school rampage, killed 8. Thank God, one of the girls that they thought had been killed actually did survive her injuries, very seriously in a hospital. So the Canadian police did a press conference last night, named the school shooter as an 18-year-old. Extraordinarily, though, again, they got themselves in that little muddle they keep on getting themselves into over who was it? Was it a man or woman? They said a female 18-year-old. After a question to correct it, no, it was someone who was born a biological male and had transitioned to female. This is Jesse van Roetseler, who killed his stepbrother and his mother before going to the school. They don't know what the motive is yet, and the fact he was clearly deeply troubled, had been involved in the police, had violently attacked people previously. Why the hell he had access to guns, I've got to be honest with you. But again, continue to refer to the killer as she and her. The reports, I mean, it took BBC and Sky and others quite a long time after this had been said. You knew there were meetings going, what do we do? What do we do? We've been calling this a female killer. Women don't go on mass shootings by and large, never have in Canada or the US, or in the UK, tiny number in the US. But I knew straight away yesterday morning it wasn't a woman, that it was a man. Basic research clarified that numerous people in a very small town had identified who this was and said it was a male. Even this morning, the BBC just saying a biological male who's transitioned to female. You can't transition to female. If you're a biological male, you're a man, and you're a man for your entire life. Right now, he is a man. He's in a morgue, and his body is the body of a man. And they're still referring to him, although I thought it was interesting, the BBC used they and them pronouns, which, given that he apparently identified as a she, I think it's a bit transphobic, but this is the madness we're in. And I've had all these people say to me, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Because if the police and the media and the authorities cannot be trusted to tell us basic, verifiable facts, like whether someone was a man or a woman, what else will they lie about? If you'd be happy for them to say, this man was black, when you could look at him and go, he's clearly white. If they said, no, he identified as black, he was black.
That would cause real outrage.
That would cause an outrage, because it wouldn't be true, right?
Correct.
Well, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
A man went on a rampage and he killed people.
Let's
say the facts.
It is quite clear. I wouldn't even call him a man. It's an 18-year-old boy with severe mental health issues that have been known about for a long period of time of his life. The police knew about him, his family knew about it. How he got access to weapons, we don't know. People are getting their knickers in a twist about this trans thing. No, it was a man that a male that carried out this.
If one of the victims was someone who they would say a trans woman, but they don't want to say that phrase because it doesn't fit their politics, and then they accuse people like me of stirring up hatred. No. Facts aren't hateful.
But the Supreme Court has clarified the line
but they're
everyone.
all going with the Canadian police. Well, that's not the law in this country.
Correct.
But it is the guidance from Ofcom and IPSO to the media, and we need to get that changed because they are basically authorising, requiring people to lie to you.
We need some Ofcom complaints.
It's not. Yeah, I mean, seriously, complain constantly. Whenever they lie to you, you need to complain. 10:20.